Good evening, friends. Pinwatuni. Welcome to our online broadcast here from the London Mindfulness Meditation Center. As you know, we go live every day at 7 o'clock, sharing our evening Buddha Puja, chanting and meditation with you. It really serves a great purpose for your well-being at home, especially during these lockdown restriction times. During this time of difficulty, committing yourself to religious observance daily brings great relief as well as peace of mind. So we share our evening Buddha Puja, chanting and meditation with you so that you can develop peace of mind, commit yourself to religious practice, spiritual advancement, listen to chanting, as well as to dedicate the chanting to anyone that may have been affected by the pandemic during this time of difficulty. So we wish everyone good health and happiness, not just those who may have been affected by it, but everyone, you and your loved ones. May you all stay safe. May you be blessed with good health and happiness. May you receive the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and the compassion of the Buddha embodied in chantings. May they be conducive for your well-being. That is our true righteous aspiration as we share our chanting. So if you want to share, please forward our link or even share our YouTube channel lmmc.online so that those who may wish to listen to the chanting can listen whenever they are able to, or if they would wish to listen. So we also do meditation, and today instead of yesterday, as mentioned earlier this week, we will do our meditation practice on mindfulness with a short reflection and an extended practice. So if you are staying, please do continue to stay. Today, Mr. David and Mrs. Maheshi Fernando would like to share merit with their departed parents, Mrs. Indra Fernando, Mr. Marcus Fernando, and Mr. Dharmasri Marasinghe. And also would like to bless dear mother, Mrs. Rani Marasinghe, who is in Australia, wishing her good health, happiness, and long life. So after chanting, we will share merit with the beloved departed parents, and also when we chant Parit, we will bless Mrs. Rani Marasinghe as well. So first of all, before we worship the Buddha, let us observe 5 precepts. Please say Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa 3 times. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, පානාතිපාතා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි අදින්නාදානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි කාමේසු මිච්ඡාචාරා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි මුසාවාදා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි සුරාමේරය මජ්ජපමා දට්ඨානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි තිසරණේන සද්ධින් පංචශීලං ධම්මං සාදුකං සුරක්ඛිතං කତ୍වා අපමාදේන සම්පාදේ තබ්බං. Okay, let's worship the Buddha together. නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස ඉතිපිසෝ භගවා අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විජ්ජාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරථි සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති බුද්ධං ජීවිත පරියන්තං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච බුද්ධා අතීතා ච යේච බුද්ධා අනාගතා පච්චප්පන්නා ච යේ බුද්ධා අහං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ථි මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං බුද්ධෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං පාදපං සුවරුත්තමං බුද්ධේයෝ කලිතෝ දෝසෝ බුද්ධෝ කමතු තං මමං ස්වාක්ඛාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සන්දිට්ඨිකෝ කාලිකෝ එහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනයිකෝ පච්චත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤුහිති ධම්මං ජීවිත පරියන්තං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච ධම්මා අතීතා ච යේච ධම්මා අනාගතා පච්චප්පන්නා ච යේ ධම්මා අහං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ථි මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං ධම්මෝ මේ sacca vajjene hotu me jaya mangalam uttamangena vandeham dhamman ceti vidham varam Dhammiyo kalito doso Dhammo kametu tang mamang Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujjapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyaya patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samici patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang cattari purisa yugani Attha purisa puggala Esa bhagavato savaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo Dakhineyo anjali karaniyo Anuttarang punyakhetang lokasati Sanghang jivita pariyantang saranang gacchami Yeche sangha atitache Yeche sangha anagata Paccapanna caye sangha ahang vandami sabbada Natti me saranang anyang Sangho me saranang varang Etene sacca vajjene Hotu me jaya mangalang Uttamangena vandeham Sangham ceti vidhottamam Sangheyo khalito doso Sangho khametu tang mamang Ghanasarappadittene Deepene tamadangsina Tiloka deepang sambuddhang Pujayami tamonudang Vannagandha gunopetang Etang kusuma santating Pujayami munindassa Siripada saroruhe Pujemi buddhang kusumena nene Punyena metena ca hotu mokkhaṃ Pupphaṃ milayati yatha idamme Kāyo tatha yati vināsa bhāvaṃ Adhivasetu no bhante Pānīyaṃ parikappitaṃ Anukampaṃ upādāye patiganhātu uttame Adhivasetu no bhante Gilāna paccayaṃ imaṃ Anukampaṃ upādāye patiganhātu uttame Adhivasetu no bhante Vesajjaṃ parikappitaṃ Anukampaṃ upādāye patiganhātu uttame Adhivasetu no bhante Sambhaṃ saddhāye pujitaṃ Anukampaṃ upādāye patigannhātu uttame vandāmi cetiyang sabbang sabbathāni supatititang sāririka dhātu mahābodhing buddha rūpang sakalang sadā yassa mūle nisinnove sabbāri vijayang akā pato sabbanyutang sattha vandetang bodhipadapang ime ete mahabodhi lokanathena pujita ahampite namassami bodhiraja namattute kāyena vācā cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamami bhante puripanya tathāgata kāyena vācā cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamami dhamma sanditthika akalika kāyena vācā cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamami sangha supatipanna anuttara ettavatāca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya ettavatāca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe bhūtā anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya ettavatāca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe sattā anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo imina punya kammene mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya idamme punyang asavakkaya vahang hotu sambha dukkha pamunchatu So if you have just joined us, that is the end of our Buddha Puja this evening. So now we are going to chant the Paritta Suttas. Today we will be chanting Ratana Sutta, Chundathera Bojjhanga Sutta and Jinapanjara Sutta. Wishing you all good health, happiness and success, and especially during this time of difficulty. May you stay blessed with good health and happiness. May you and your loved ones be blessed by the virtues of the Triple Gem. May the blessings of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha be upon you for your well-being. May the compassion of the Buddha be upon you for your well-being. So we are also blessing Mrs. Rani Marasinghe, who is in Australia. So to Mr. David and Mrs. Maheshi Fernand would like to bless her with good health and happiness. And may she also receive our blessings and be happy and peaceful, and may she also have long life. So we will be chanting the Ratana Sutta the Mahatmandattara Bojjhanga Sutta and Jinapanjara Sutta. As always, please do dedicate or bear in your thoughts anyone who you wish for speedy recovery. If they have been affected by COVID-19 or other illnesses, may they be blessed, may they have a speedy recovery, may all treatments they are taking be successful, and may they enjoy good health soon. As always, we dedicate the chanting to all our key workers, including NHS staff, doctors and nurses. May they all enjoy good health. May they be blessed with good health. May they also develop courage and determination to continue the valuable services, looking after the patients and their families. So we remember them and bless them as well. We bear them in our thoughts as well. So if you are able to chant, please chant with us. Otherwise, listen to the chanting with great attention and respect. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajas Sunantu Saggamokkhadam Paritta Savanakalu Ayang Bhadanta Paritta Savanakalu Ayang Bhadanta Paritta Dhamma Savanakalu Ayang Bhadanta Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Yani Bhutani Samagatani Bhummani Vayani Vayantalikhe Sambheva Bhuta Sumana Bhavantu Athopi Sakkacca Sunantu Bhasitam Tasmahi Bhutani Samita Sabbe Mittam Karothe Manusya Pajaye Divacharatto Chaharanti Ye Baling Tasmahine Rakkata Appamatta Yang Kinchi Vittam Idhava Hurang Va Sagge Suvayang Ratanang Panitam Nano Samang Attita Thagatena Idampi Buddhe Ratanang Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Khayang Viragang Amatang Panitam Yadajjaga Sakya Muni Samahito Natena Dhammena Samatte Kinche Idampi Dhamme Ratanang Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Yang Buddha Setto Parivannai Sucing Samadhimanantari Kanyamahu Samadhina Tena Samona Vijjati Idampi Dhamme Ratanang Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Ye Puggala Attha Satang Pasattha Chattari Etani Yugani Honti Te Dakhineya Sugatasya Savaka Ete Sudinnani Mahaphalani Idampi Sanghe Ratanang Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Ye Suppayutta Manasa Dalhena Nikamino Gotama Sasanam Hi Te Patti Patta Amatang Vigaihe Laddha Mudha Nibbuting Bhunjamana Idampi Sanghe Ratanang Panitam Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Yatinda Kilo Pathaving Sito Siya Chatubhivate Bhya Sampakampiyo තථූපමං සප්පුරිසං වදාමි යෝ වරිය සච්චානි අවෙච්ච පස්සති ඉදම්පි සංඝේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු යේ අරිය සච්චානි විභාවයන්ති ගම්භීර පඤ්ඤේන සුදේසිතානි කිංචාපිතේ හොන්ති භුසප්පමත්තා නතේ භවං අට්ඨමං ආදියන්ති ඉදම්පි සංඝේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු සහවස්ස දස්සන සම්පදාය තයස්සු ධම්මා ජහිතා භවන්ති සක්කාය දිට්ඨි විචිකිච්ඡිතං ච සීලබ්බතං වාපි යදත්ති කිංචේ චතුහ පායේහි ච විප්පමුත්තෝ චචාබිඨානානි අබබ්බෝ කාතුං ඉදම්පි සංඝේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු කිංචාපි සෝකම්මං කරෝති පාපකං කායේන වාචා උදචේතසාවා අභබ්බෝසෝ තස්ස පටිච්චාදාය අභබ්බතා දිට්ඨ පදස්ස වුත්තා ඉදම්පි සංඝේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු වනප්ප ගුම්බේ යතා පුස්සිතග්ගේ ගිම්හාන මාසේ පඨමස්මින් ගිම්හේ තථූපමං ධම්මවරං අදේසයි නිබ්බානගාමින් පරමං හිතාය ඉදම්පි බුද්ධේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු වරෝ වරඤ්ඤෝ වරදෝ වරාහරෝ අනුත්තරෝ ධම්මවරං අදේසයි ඉදම්පි බුද්ධේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු කීනං පුරාණං නවං නත්ති සම්භවං විරත්ත චිත්තා ආයතිකේ භවස්මින් තේ කීන බීජා අවිරුල්හිච්ඡන්දා නිබ්බන්ති ධීරා යථායං පදීපෝ ඉදම්පි සංඝේ රතනං පනීතං ඒතේන සච්චේන සුවත්ති හෝතු යානීද භූතානි සමාගතානි පුම්මානි වායානි වයන්තලික්ඛේ තථාගතං දේව මනුස්ස පූජිතං බුද්ධං නමස්සාම සුවත්ති හෝතු යානීද භූතානි සමාගතානි පුම්මානි වායානි වයන්තලික්ඛේ තථාගතං දේව මනුස්ස පූජිතං ධම්මං නමස්සාම සුවත්ති හෝතු යානීද භූතානි සමාගතානි බුම්මානි වායානි වයන්තලික්ඛේ තථාගතං දේව මනුස්ස පූජිතං සංඝං නමස්සාම සුවත්ති හෝතු ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන දුක්ඛාවූපසමෙන්තු තේ ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන භයාවූපසමෙන්තු තේ ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන රෝගාවූපසමෙන්තු තේ එවං මේ සුතං ඒකං සමයං භගවා රාජගහේ විහෙරති වේලුවනේ කලන්දක නිවාපේ තේන කෝපන සමයේන භගවා ආබාධිකෝ හෝති දුක්ඛිතෝ බාල්හගිලානෝ අතකෝ ආයස්මා මහාචුන්දෝ සායන්හ සමයං පතිසල්ලානාවුට්ඨිතෝ යේන භගවාතේනුපසංකමී උපසංකමිත්වා භගවන්තං අභිවාදෙත්වා ඒකමන්තං නිසීදී ඒකමන්තං නිසින්නංකෝ ආයස්මන්තං මහාචුන්දං භගවා ඒතදවෝචේ පටිභන්තු තං චුන්ද බොජ්ජංගාති සත්තිමේ බන්තේ බොජ්ජංගා භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතා භාවිතා බහුලීකතා අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තන්ති කතමේ සත්ත සති සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කහ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති ධම්මවිචය සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කහ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති විරිය සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කහ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති පීති සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කහ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති පස්සද්ධි සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති සමාධි සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති උපේක්ඛා සම්බොජ්ජංගෝ කෝ භන්තේ භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතෝ භාවිතෝ බහුලීකතෝ අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තති ඉමේ කෝ භන්තේ සත්ත බොජ්ජංගා භගවතා සම්මදක්ඛාතා භාවිතා බහුලීකතා අභිඤ්ඤාය සම්බෝධාය නිබ්බානාය සංවත්තන්ති තග්ග චුන්ද බොජ්ජංගා තග්ග චුන්ද බොජ්ජංගාති ඉදමවෝ චායස්මා මහාචුන්දෝ සමනුඤ්ඤෝ සත්තා අහෝසි උට්ඨාහිච භගවා තම්හා ආබාධා තථා පහිනෝ ච භගවතෝ සෝ ආබාධෝ අහෝසීති ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන රෝගා උපසමින්තුතේ ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන රෝගා උපසමින්තුතේ ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන රෝගා උපසමින්තුතේ ජයාසනගතා වීරාජෙත්වා මාරං සවාහිනින් චතුසච්චාමතර සංයේපි විංසු නරා සභා තන්හං කරාදයෝ බුද්ධා අට්ඨවී සතිනායකා සම්බේ පතිට්ඨිතා තුයිහං මත්තකේතේ මුනිස්සරා සිරේ පතිට්ඨිතා බුද්ධා ධම්මෝ ච තව ලෝචනේ සංඝෝ පතිට්ඨිතෝ තුයිහං පුරේ සබ්බ ගුණාකරෝ හදයේ අනුරුද්ධෝ ච සාරිපුත්තෝ ච දක්ඛිනේ කොණ්ඩඤ්ඤෝ පිට්ඨි භාගස්මින් මොග්ගල්ලානෝ සිවාමකේ දක්ඛිනේ සවනේ තුයිහං ආහුං ආනන්ද රාහුලා කස්සපෝ ච මහානාමු උභෝසුං වාමසෝතකේ කේසන්තේ පිට්ඨි භාගස්මින් සුරියෝ වියපබංකරෝ නිසින්නෝ සිරි සම්පන්නෝ සෝභිතෝ මුනිපුංගවෝ කුමාර කස්සපෝ නාම මහේසී චිත්‍රවාදකෝ සෝතුයිහං වදනේ නිච්ඡං පතිට්ඨාසි ගුණාකරෝ පුන්නෝ අංගුලිමාලෝ ච උපාලී නන්ද සීවලී තේරා පංචෛමේ ජාතා ලලාටේ තිලකා තව සේසාසීති මහතේරා විජිතා ජින ශාවකා ජලන්තා සීල තේජේන අංගමංගේසු සම්ටිතා රතනං පුරතෝ ආසී දක්ඛිනේ මෙත්ත සුත්තකං දජග්ගං පච්ඡතෝ ආසි වාමේ අංගුලිමාලකං කන්දමෝර පරිත්තංච ආටානාටිය සුත්තකං ආකාසච්ඡදනං ආසි සේසාපාකාර සංඤිතා ජිනානා බල සංයුත්තේ ධම්මපාකාර ලංකතේ වසතෝ තේ චතුකිච්චේන සදා සම්බුද්ධ පංජරේ වාත පිත්තාදි සංජාතා බාහිරජ්ජත් පද්දවා අසේසා විලයං යන්තු අනන්ත ගුණ තේජසා ජින පංජර මජ්ජහට්ඨං විහරන්තං මහීතලේ සදා පාලෙන්තු ත්වං සබ්බේ තේ මහා පුරිසා සභා ඉච්ඡේව මච්ඡන්තකතෝ සුරක්ඛෝ ජිනානුභාවේන ජිතෝපපද්දවෝ බුද්ධානුභාවේන හතාරි සංඝෝ චරාහි සද්ධම්මනුභාව පාලිතෝ ඉච්ඡේව මච්ඡන්තකතෝ සුරක්ඛෝ ජිනානුභාවේන ජිතෝපපද්දවෝ ධම්මානුභාවේන හතාරි සංඝෝ චරාහි සද්ධම්මනුභාව පාලිතෝ ඉච්ඡේව මච්ඡන්තකතෝ සුරක්ඛෝ ජිනානුභාවේන ජිතෝපපද්දවෝ සංඝානුභාවේන හතාරි සංඝෝ චරාහි සද්ධම්මනුභාව පාලිතෝ සද්ධම්මපාකාර පරික්ඛිතෝසී අට්ඨාරියා අට්ඨ දිසාසු හොන්ති එත්තන්තරේ අට්ඨනාථා භවಂತಿ උද්ධං විතානං වජිනාඨිතාතේ බින්දන්තෝ මාරසේනං තව සිරසිටිතෝ බෝධිමාරුය්‍ය සත්තා මොග්ගල්ලානෝ සිවාමේ වසති භුජතටේ දක්ඛිනේ සාරිපුත්තෝ ධම්මෝ මජ්ජේ උරස්මින් විහෙරති භවතෝ මොක්ඛතෝ මෝරයෝනින් සම්පත්තෝ බෝධිසත්තෝ චරණයුගගතෝ භානුලෝකේකනාථෝ Sambhava mangalam paddava dunnimittang sabbiti roga gadosa masesa ninda Sabbantaraya bhayadusupinang akantang buddhanubhava pavarena payatu nasang Sabbava mangalam paddava dunnimittang sabbiti roga gadosa masesa ninda Sabbantaraya bhayadusupinang akantang sanghanubhava pavarena payatu nasang Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu lokasasanang Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu dhammadesanang Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mang paranti sadhu sadhu sadhu. So that is the end of our chanting this evening. So if you have just joined us, you know we go live every day at 7 o'clock British Standard Time here from the London Mindfulness Meditation Center, supporting your religious practice of commitment every evening so that you can participate from home or wherever you are during these lockdown restriction times, worshipping the Buddha, chanting, listening to chanting, or dedicating the chanting to your loved ones for good health and happiness, as well as wishing those who may have been affected by COVID-19 or otherwise, wishing them speedy recovery. So you can share our YouTube link or even our Facebook link. So lmmc.online is our YouTube link, so they can listen to the chanting whenever they are able to do so. So today we chanted the Ratana Sutta and Mahachundattara Bojjhanga Sutta and the Jinapanjara Sutta for your well-being, and we also dedicated to anyone who is ill. So may you have a speedy recovery. May you also be successful in all the treatments that you take, and may you be able to enjoy good health soon. So we also dedicated the chanting to all our key workers, including NHS staff, doctors and nurses, wishing them good health. May they also be blessed with good health. May they also develop courage and determination to continue all their valuable services to the patients and the nation and the families as well. So especially today, the sponsors Mr. David and Mrs. Maheshi Fernando would like to bless their dear mother in Australia, Mrs. Rani Marasinghe. So we wish her good health, happiness and long life. May she be blessed with good health, and may she rejoice in our punya karma and develop peace of mind and well-being throughout. They would also like to bless their departed parents, Mr. Marcus Fernando and Mrs. Indra Fernando, as well as Mr. Dharmasiri Marasinghe. May all three of them be happy and peaceful wherever they are. May they be blessed with our merit. May they rejoice in our merit. If they are in an unfortunate state of condition, may they recover from there and elevate from the suffering. If they are in a good state of condition, may they prosper in that, and making their sansaric life happy. May they also eventually attain the blissful state of Nibbana through their righteous aspirated paths. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So as mentioned earlier this week, now we are going to do meditation, and instead of yesterday, we will do meditation practice, not on metta but on mindfulness. So if you are staying, please do make yourself comfortable. So over the past few weeks we have been discussing on aspects of mindfulness that will support your development of mindfulness, especially in meditation. Mindfulness is or has become a big buzzword these days, especially even with the pandemic. The state of mind that we are able to maintain, especially during the lockdown restriction times, during this time when we all have anxiety and worries, it'll be really great if we are to develop our mindfulness and peace of mind through mindfulness. So once a week we reflect on aspects of mindfulness and practice mindfulness meditation for a while. So last week and the week before, we referred to the unwholesome mental states that might instigate or that might encourage or be leading to some proliferation of the states of mind or even our mentality. So tanha, ditthi and mana. So I'll be focusing a little bit more in mana, but to give a recap for those who missed these points. Day in, day out, from the time we wake up to the time we sleep, most of the times there are certain roots for certain thoughts that will always work within ourselves. And everything that you do, everything that you say, even everything that you think might be rooted or instigated or even led by those three mental states. So tanha is desire or our likes or our anticipated likes. Mana is the way we measure, or what we call is conceit. We begin to measure things and make judgments, and this is one of the things that we really need to, which is quite set aside, but as you know, every judgment is made through that conceit mentality. And then the third one is ditthi in Pali, which is views, some fixated views that we may have either through experience or through knowledge or even perhaps through your education or even nurturing, through your conclusive judgments that we bring about. So we do have some fixated views within ourselves, which actually becomes the reason for the proliferation or the reasons for the rising of other mental thoughts, which can then impact upon you and especially for your well-being as well. So when our thoughts develop from these, we do get affected, we do actually react. So the week before we were talking about how our likes, how our desire or cravings turn into some sort of mechanism that we always are shadowed by those. So we talk of 6 senses and we take the 5 physical senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. So eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body. So 5 senses, those are physical senses. And then we do consider mind as a platform, as another state of where thoughts arise. So that becomes a sense as well. So we are talking of 6 senses here. So when the existence of desire is, or when the desire or tanha or craving is prevalent in our mind, we always seek to meet our needs or even to entertain that desire or even to actually sustain the desire. So we are looking at wanting to see nice things, wanting to hear pleasant things, smell nice things, and then imagine our reaction when they are not met, or when the things that you see, hear, taste are not nice. So a person who is not mindful will always start working on those things, as I said, either intentionally or even unconsciously. So we also sometimes will actually seek certain things that in our minds, certain things might, for example, our thoughts, there are pleasant thoughts sometimes we always wish for, and sometimes that ends up in what we would say in our general language, daydreaming. Sometimes we will look for thoughts, we will look for some pleasant things, dig into our memories. Now, these six senses become perhaps the channels for where the desire starts activating a lot. Now, when we say desire, remember, when things don't meet to expectation, we develop dissatisfaction, or we develop, I would sometimes, a manifestation of anger, like we call dosa in Pali, anger. So there is a bit of resistance in what happens, and then that is rejected, still seeking something or as an alternative. So the desire works very differently. So a person who is not mindful will be actually controlled by these emotions, controlled by them, activating or acting on things that comes to your mind, thoughts or otherwise. If the things are not met, we will pursue and try to always manage to have those. Even when we talk to people, when we interact, whatever we do, we are actually driven by those desires. And this is quite an important thing to realize, because sometimes when there exists a desire in our thoughts, and when we meet some pleasant objects, we also develop what we call desiring for it to last longer, or desiring for unpreferred ones to be out of your reach or sight, or out of your encounter. So, for example, pain, for those who are new, listening to this newly, there may be a pain which we want to reject, or there may be a nice flower which you want to make it last longer, or there might be a taste which you might start craving for. And this is nothing but actually a thought in our head that we are actually trying to compare and meet or raise the bar. So there is a criteria that we develop through all our either knowledge that I said earlier, the fixed views. There is a criteria we start developing within us unconsciously, unknowingly. So the thought that we actually excuse me the thought that we actually create in ourselves is actually a result of some encounterings we may have had in the past, or even in the current moment, but that becomes a reference point always. For those who are quite familiar with the Pali term, we'll call that sankaparaga. So it is a thought that we have generated in the past, or a thought that we generate now, which becomes the bar that we want to meet. So every experience is trying to meet that bar or that reference point. So when you eat, sometimes we'll remember some food and we'll start tasting the food that is entering your mouth, rather than trying to enjoy the food that is already in your mouth. We will start comparing the taste to something else. And finally, we even try to explain what the taste is like So I cannot be understanding what your taste is, but you are trying to explain to me what the taste is like. So we develop some sort of deluded expression sometimes. One, we are raising a bar and trying to meet the criteria that we have developed within our minds. And two, we are trying to actually convey that taste or talk to someone, assuming they will also understand what is in your mind or the taste that is in your mind, which is what you have been grasping or holding on to. So we are, as you can see, day in, day out, lots of our actions are shadowed like this. They are actually lots of our thoughts and actions and words are driven by this concept or idea or even the thought that we actually hook into. Now that is why these are the unwholesome mental roots for the proliferation of or the arising of lots of other thoughts. So a mindful person actually will see that this is happening, perhaps in the mind or perhaps in the object that is being entering through your five senses. You're seeing things, tasting things, feeling things, smelling things. We call them objects, or hearing things. So we will be quite mindful of the arising and the ceasing of these objects that we'll be mindful of this arising and ceasing of things rather than us going back and hooking into it and trying to compare it to the thought that you already have in your mind. How many of us may have said, look at that flower, it's so nice, but then have you thought of or compared it to another flower? Maybe a dress someone wears, maybe a pair of shoes, car, mobile. Do we just see it as it is, or do we actually link it to something else? Have a thought. A music that we hear or a sound that we hear, when it is pleasant, we want to listen to it longer. When it is unpleasant, are we aware of this dislike and distaste of that sensation that we are disliking? Are we aware of that arising in your mind? Do we eat the food that is in front of your plate without comparing it to something else? Do we plan our next mouthful when we eat something? If you already had your dinner by now, did you plan to eat your next handful, or were you actually enjoying chewing your food mindfully? Did you want to have something more extra, and were you planning to finish that dish quickly and then have some more as in helping? Lots of things can happen without our awareness. So last week we referred to about what we call mana, which is about the measuring or the comparing that we do in terms of the self or yourself. So lots of the, perhaps your engagement from day-to-day actions, words, interactions, or even thinking, is it driven by some sort of measurement that you or judgment that you make? Are you superior or are you greater? Do you feel yourself inferior, or do you develop or do you act with your low self-esteem sometimes? Or do you have a competitive mindset? Do you also develop the state such as equality or equal status in your mind? So the word mana is about the excuse me. The word mana is measuring. So it is an unwholesome root that drives lots of our actions, perhaps sometimes to the negative, maybe even more in the negative. Because when we encounter all these objects from either eyes, ears, nose, tongue or body when we actually experience the object. Rather than seeing it as it is, there is this judgmental value that we actually are imposing in those things. I think it should be like this, or this is the way it should be. I have a better one than that. Maybe next time I'll get that better for myself. So we are measuring, so with the desire, with the reference point, and we are still also unconsciously doing some measuring activity or comparing activity, or shall I again use the word judging it. Most of the time, almost all of the time, we live with this judgmental mindset. Even the sounds that you hear, even the objects that you see, we always judge it to a certain quality. And sometimes when it comes to the personal identity or you as a person, sometimes this mana or this conceit comes in such a way that you feel, in a sense, outrageous if things go wrong. Sometimes you feel the pride can kick into you to actually make someone feel inferior as well. When people don't do things the way you say, when things are not happening in your expected way, we feel a different type of mental states developing within ourselves. Surely a mindful person will actually be aware of this and will not actually be driven by these unnecessary proliferating mindsets, because a wise person will see things as they are, rather than imposing your values, rather than comparing it to something else, rather than seeing things in a different way, either in the past or present. There is always something that a mind is doing. And this is it. This is what we are trying to actually develop, establishing these things happening as they are, rather than actually reacting to these things. So when all these sensory experiences are taking place, we will need to develop a skill to stop getting involved with it in the way that we just discussed so far. Not to get involved, but actually be mindful of their presence as it is. It happens all the time. Now maybe you're sitting quietly now. Your body is quite restrained, in control. Mind is not a physical thing, it's not a material thing. It will not be able to stay like your body, and every moment it is in either two alternatives, never perhaps in the moment. Either it's thinking of something that you want to do or you have plans to do, or either we will actually think something what happened and always work on it, trying to rewrite the story behind it. And when we get involved like that, we are not enjoying our present moment. When we get involved with your memories and thoughts, we always have a response which will perhaps not be a happy one. I wish it was like this. Maybe next time I'll do this. I don't know why this happened. We're always actually in the worrying moment, or we develop anxiety. But when you are mindful, you have the choice to let it go, rather than getting caught in those thought processes. The mind is always going to be active. It will not stay like your body. So when thoughts arise in your mind, rather than getting involved in those past memories which you can never ever change, if it comes to your mind, let it go. Don't dwell in it, don't get involved in it, because you cannot change the past. The future has not come yet. The conditions for the future is always going to be not the way you want it. We don't know what is going to happen next. But what you know is, if you are mindful, you know what is happening right here, right now. That is the power of now. That is the power of mindfulness. When you are with the experience, you have a choice not to get involved through desire or through judgment, and then allow proliferation of other mental thoughts. For those who know Pali, this is the papancha status. Prapancha. Don't let those unwholesome mental roots, tanna and mana and ditti, make you get involved in unnecessary thinking or unnecessary measurements. The future has not come. The past cannot be changed. But what you are in control of is your current moment if you are mindful. The choice is what we develop through mindfulness. If you get involved with it, then obviously you have let the proliferation or the continuation of it take place. The skill is nekkamma, the skill is patinisagga, which is letting go. Letting go of the object that your mind grasped or got involved with. Obviously, we will not be aware of it until you see when you are in it. So as we develop a mindfulness, we can see the wave come and wave go rather than getting caught in the waves. But most of the time, we will realize, if in the development stage of this mindfulness, we'll realize that once it has happened, you know it is happening, but you don't see the rising of it. You see the continuation of it or the passing away of it. So that's why in the breathing, in the samatha technique of breathing, we establish this mindfulness through breathing, trying to see the arise of the breath and the ceasing of the breath, so that it helps us to develop this insight that getting involved in the thoughts is just another reaction that we are doing through our desires, through our measurements, through our judgment, through our personal views, through our personal habitual reaction. So mindfulness helps us break that habit. It helps us to develop this power of choice, whether to get involved or not. So there's no point getting involved with past things. There's no point getting involved with the unknown things in the future. But when you actually realize as things are happening, you are more peaceful because you are not restless. If you're not mindful, a lot of the times, perhaps or all of the time, our mind is restless. It's calculating, working on things, trying to prevent things, worrying, anxiety, stress, frustration, irritation, you name it. When there's measurement, then jealousy comes in, impatience comes into your mindset. When there is that conceit, not just impatience and jealousy, but sometimes the calculation and the planning of things which will then make you go into far deeper arising of ill will and anger starts coming in. Fear. So these are the proliferating ideas, emotions that actually affect our mental health, mental well-being. So breathing, trying to observe the breath is a very difficult task. But even if you manage to stay with the breath for a couple of seconds, couple of moments, and you improve and improve and improve, it's a great success. It is truly a great success when you actually make your mind still. When I say still, like you've made your body still, you're making your mind still. And a still mind is not a proliferating mind. A still mind is not proliferating into lots of mental thoughts. It's not getting involved with mental thoughts. So, still mind is actually giving or developing that purposeful attention so that the mind is not activating into other things, but actually mindful, being with experience, which is observing the breath as it is happening without even regulating it. We don't need to like our breath, we don't need to dislike our breath. You cannot tell that I'm not going to breathe. No, you can't say that I'm not going to breathe out. You can't control, but it is happening, and all you're doing is simply observing it, nothing else. Just observe the breath. Just observe it. Breathing in and breathing out as it is happening. We don't think of our next breath and plan, I'm going to take a long breath or I'm going to take a short breath. It happens perhaps with the links of our state of mind, but when your mind is settled, you'll gradually come to a level of balanced breathing. So if your mind is frustrated, the breathing pattern changes. If your mind is stressed, we start releasing those sort of reactions. So it is linked with the mind. But as you observe the breath, there is a calmness in the breath. Now that calmness comes with your mindfulness, sati. And when there is that mindfulness, there is nothing that you are engaging or involving and worrying, so there is happiness. Because the mind is not restless. A restless mind is always developing unhappiness in the mind. Piti and pasad develops from there. So we need effort for that. We need to develop virya. Always bring samma vayama into this. Bring back your mind to your breathing point if it wanders. Remember 6 channels: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mouth, and your mind. When your mind is out of your breathing, it will never be beyond these 6 channels. If it is in the seeing, note that your mind is in the seeing. If it is in the hearing, note that your mind is in the hearing. Not what you are hearing, what you are listening, but just hearing. Let it go. Don't stay there. Let it go immediately. And come back. So hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, feeling. Not even feeling, oh, it's painful or it's good sense. Just don't judge the experience, but let it go and then come back to breathing. So recognize, release, return to breathing. Okay? So we will practice meditation for 15 to 20 minutes and then we will come to a close. So sit straight. Right hand on your left palm, back straight and eyes gently closed. So once you have adjusted your posture, stay composed, be determined you're not going to move for the next few moments. Take a couple of deep breaths so that you feel refreshed after a long day. So long deep breath and release it again through your nose though. And when you take a deep breath, you'll feel your body is refreshing. And let it go from your nostrils again. You'll feel your body relaxing. So do 3 more. while staying with the breath, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So with all experiences, nothing should matter now. With all your day-to-day activities, nothing should matter now. You're just committed to this sitting, and you are peacefully sitting. Your posture is peaceful, it is still, a reflection of your mind still. And just with that observant mind, just watch your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. So if you're completely new, you can use the counting method that we use. As you start your breathing in, you count 1 in your head, then continue to 2, and when you stop breathing in, 3. When you breathe out, 3, 2, 1. So that helps you to stay if you are new. Otherwise, just observe the breath, being with the breath as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Just be with that air that flows in and out of your respiratory system. If it is a long breath, just note it is a long breath. Realize it's a long breath. If it is short, realize it's short. Short in breath, short out breath, or otherwise. Breathing in, breathing out. Your active mind will always want to see or encounter pleasant things and will move from object to object. The moment you realize you have wandered, just label it as wandering and then come back to breathing. The gist of today's reflection was not to form opinions all the time. Every nanosecond we might be forming opinions. They all root from judgmental values that we cherish and nurture within ourselves, either through our likes or dislikes, or even our comparison or the reference points that we've been talking so far. So if you have just joined us, this is in lieu of yesterday's weekly meditation session. So do join us again next Thursday for the continuation or the practice of mindfulness, meditation and reflection on aspects of mindfulness. Other days we do meditation on loving kindness. So thank you for joining us this evening. Have a very good evening. Stay safe, take care, and good night. See you tomorrow at 7 o'clock.